Act. By the time I came home from a 16-hour emergency room shift, my daughter's bed was gone, her glow-in-the-dark stars were painted over, and my sister's ring light was standing where my 7-year-old used to sleep. My name is Maris Wexler. Act. I am a 35-year-old nurse in Dayton, Ohio, and that little house on Juniper Hollow Lane was the first thing I ever owned alone. I thought the worst part was seeing Biscuit, my daughter's stuffed rabbit, stuffed into a cardboard box. Act. Then my mother looked me in the eye and said, "We voted, you don't get a say." What she did not know was that her own group chat, a hidden quitclaim deed, act, and one recorded county document were about to turn her family vote into the biggest mistake of her life. Chapter 1: The Room They Vote Away. I came home at 9:42 that night, with a half-gallon of milk in one hand, act, a paper bag of cinnamon crackers for Ellie tucked under my arm, and 16 hours of emergency room noise still ringing behind my eyes. I had left Juniper Hollow Lane before sunrise, at 5:52 in the morning, act, when the kitchen was still dark, and my daughter was still asleep, under the glow-in-the-dark stars we had painted on her ceiling 4 summers earlier. My shift at Kettering Valley Medical Center started at 6:30. By noon, act, I had already missed 3 calls from my mother. By dinner, I had missed 7. By the time I clocked out, my feet felt like they belonged to someone else, and my scrub smelled faintly of antiseptic, coffee, and a day I wanted to forget. Still, act, I stopped for milk. Ellie liked cinnamon crackers after school, and I had promised her we would read 2 chapters before bed if I got home before 10. The first thing I noticed was the front door. It was not standing open, not enough to panic over, act, but it had not caught properly. The porch light was on, the living room lights were too bright. My mother liked lamps, not overhead lights. She said overhead lights made a house look like a gas station. Then I smelled paint, fresh paint. Primer, act, the gray, chalky kind that sits in the back of your throat. I set the milk down on the entry table and called Ellie's name. No answer. The television was on in the living room. My father, Harlan Lorne, act, sat in his recliner with one hand on the armrest and his eyes pointed toward the screen, but he was not watching it. He was 66, broad-shouldered even after his heart surgery, act, the kind of man who could fix a furnace with a pocket knife and a bad mood, but right then he looked smaller than the chair. "Dad, where is Ellie?" He did not answer fast enough. That was when I saw the boxes in the hallway, small cardboard boxes, act, pink marker on the side, Ellie. I walked faster. The closer I got to my daughter's room, the louder the sound became. Tape pulling, cardboard scraping, something metal being adjusted. A tripod leg clicking into place. Act. I turned into the doorway and stopped. For 1 second, my mind could not make sense of what my eyes were seeing. Ellie's bed was gone. Her little white dresser was gone. The watercolor she had taped beside the window was missing, act, leaving 4 pale squares where the paper had protected the paint. Her bookshelf had been shoved into the hall, books stacked crooked on top of each other like they had been evacuated from a fire. Half of her ceiling was gray, not painted carefully, act, not finished, just covered in a flat gray primer that swallowed the small green stars Ellie and I had pressed into the plaster with tiny brushes in July of 2021, 1 month after I bought the house. The other half still glowed faintly in the dim corner, act, a broken sky above an empty floor. Biscuit, Ellie's old stuffed rabbit, was sticking out of one of the boxes by one floppy ear. A ring light stood where my daughter's bed used to be. A cream-colored backdrop leaned against the wall, act. A tripod was already open. An extension cord ran across the floor, plugged into the same outlet where Ellie used to keep her nightlight. My sister, Briar, was kneeling beside a box, pressing tape across the top like she was packing seasonal decorations. Act. She looked up and smiled too quickly. "Oh, you're home." Her voice was soft, careful, almost cheerful. Briar was 30, with perfect loose waves, a beige sweater, act, and the kind of calm face she used in her Briar Balance videos, when she talked about healing cluttered spaces. She had about 1,100 followers and spoke as if every messy thing in life could be solved with linen baskets and eucalyptus spray. Act. My mouth went dry. "Where is Ellie?" Briar glanced past me. "Mom said she talked to you." My mother appeared behind her like she had been waiting for her cue. Vera Lorne was 63, still beautiful in a hard, polished way, act, with silver blonde hair pinned back and a cardigan buttoned to her throat. She had worked for years as a church office secretary, and she had mastered the voice people use when they want cruelty to sound like concern. She looked at the room, then at me. Act. We voted. You don't get a say. The words landed so quietly that for a moment I thought I had misheard her. I looked back into the room, at the gray ceiling, at Biscuit's ear, at the ring light. What do you mean, you voted? Briar stood up, brushing tape from her fingers. Maris, don't make this ugly. The room has the best daylight in the house. Ellie is at school all day. I need a real space if Briar balance is going to grow. That is my daughter's bedroom. My mother sighed, like I had disappointed her by stating something obvious. It was your daughter's bedroom. Now it can serve the whole family. The whole family. I had heard that phrase so many times in that house that it had started to sound like furniture being dragged across the floor. Family dinner, family schedule, family sacrifice, family decision. Every time my mother said family, something that belonged to me got a little smaller. Where is my child? My father shifted in his recliner behind me. He did not stand. He did not say my name. He just looked down at his hands. My mother folded her arms. She is with Cole for a couple of nights. You needed a break. I could hear my own breathing then. Low and thin. Cole Mercer was Ellie's father. He was not cruel. He was not dangerous. But he had not seen her regularly since Thanksgiving. He worked HVAC jobs around Dayton. Picked up overtime when he could, forgot school events, remembered birthdays late, and had never once been the parent Ellie reached for in the middle of the night. You sent my 7-year-old daughter away without asking me. My mother's face tightened. We did what you were too tired to do. You work in that hospital until you can barely stand. You miss calls. You come home half dead. Ellie needs adults making decisions, not just one exhausted mother snapping at everyone. Briar added very softly. It was easier while she wasn't here. She would have cried if she watched us move everything. Something in me went very still. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab the ring light and throw it through the window. I wanted to rip the gray primer off the ceiling with my fingernails. Instead, I put my keys down on the small table outside Ellie's room because my hand had started to shake. Who picked her up? My mother blinked. Cole did. What did you tell him? That you were overwhelmed and needed help? Did you tell the school I approved it? She did not answer. Did Ellie cry? Briar looked away. My mother said, "You are making this sound cruel." And it was not cruel, it was practical. 4 adults agreed. One tired mother does not get to override the whole family. 4 adults. My mother. My father. My sister. My ex counted without knowing what he had been used for. And one child moved like a chair. I reached into the box and pulled Biscuit free. His gray fur was flattened where the cardboard had pressed against him. Ellie had carried that rabbit through fevers, dentist appointments, her first day of kindergarten, and the night Cole left for good with a duffel bag and a promise he did not keep. I held Biscuit against my chest and walked out. My mother followed me to the porch. If you go get her now, you'll confuse her more. This is exactly why we had to step in. I turned back just enough to look at her. You moved my daughter like furniture. We'll talk when she is home. Then I got in my car. Cole answered on the second ring. His voice was wary, like he knew before I spoke that he had stepped into something bigger than he understood. Maris, your mom said you needed me to take Ellie. I gripped the steering wheel. I never said that. Silence. Then Cole exhaled. She said you were in the ER all day and you couldn't talk. She said you were close to breaking. She said Ellie needed a calm place for 2 nights. Is Ellie safe? Yeah, she's here. She's upset, but she's safe. Put her on video. A few seconds later, my daughter's face filled the screen. Ellie was 7, with tangled brown hair, pink cheeks from crying, and my own tired eyes. She sat on Cole's couch with her backpack still zipped beside her. Mom, did I do something wrong? No. Baby. Grandma said everybody voted. My throat closed. You did nothing wrong. Biscuit is with me. I'm coming right now. Her chin trembled. Can I come home? I was already backing out of the driveway. Yes, Cole lived 20 minutes away, but that drive felt longer than my whole shift. He met me at the door with guilt written all over him. Ellie ran into my arms so hard I nearly stepped backward. I held her with one arm and Biscuit with the other, while Cole stood there looking at the floor. I didn't know, he said. Your mom told me you asked. I need you to text me exactly what she told you. He nodded. For once, he did not argue. For once, he understood that being sorry was not enough. A record mattered. Ellie did not speak much in the car. She sat in the back with Biscuit under her chin, watching the dark streets slide past the window. Halfway home, she asked in a voice so small it barely reached the front seat. Can they vote me out again? I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were red. Her fingers were twisted in Biscuit's ear, and in that moment every tired part of me went quiet. Act. I did not promise her everything would be fine. Children know when adults are lying. I just said, not if I have anything to do with it, but what I meant was stronger than that. I meant I was done letting my mother turn family into a weapon. Act. I meant I was done letting my father's silence count as permission. I meant I was done letting Briar build peace on top of my child's pain, and I meant that before anyone in that house touched my daughter's room again, they were going to learn exactly whose name was on the deed. Chapter 2: The House That Stopped Being Mine. The deed was not a threat to me then. It was a memory. I had signed it in June of 2021, sitting across from a closing agent with tired eyes and a pen chained to the desk. The house on Juniper Hollow Lane cost $248,000, which sounded impossible when I first saw the number on paper. It was a 3-bedroom ranch with a small porch, an old kitchen, a roof that needed attention, and a backyard fence low enough for a determined dog to jump. It was not the kind of house people photographed for magazines. It was the kind of house you bought when you were 31, newly separated, raising a toddler, and trying to prove to yourself that the ground under your feet could belong to you. I became a registered nurse in 2015. Back then, I thought exhaustion meant 3 12-hour shifts in a row and cold coffee in the break room. Then I had Ellie in 2018, and I learned exhaustion could have tiny socks in the dryer and a fever at 2 in the morning. Cole and I had lived together from 2016 until 2020, and by the end he was more absence than partner. He was not evil, he was just always gone, always late, always promising the next week would be better. When he left, I stopped waiting for better and started building stable. Juniper Hollow Lane was the first place that did not feel borrowed. I paid the down payment with overtime, night differentials, and money I had hidden from myself in a credit union account for years. In 2025, the mortgage still sat around $211,600, but every payment came from my paycheck. The deed had one name on it, Maris Wexler. The mortgage had one name on it, Maris Wexler. I knew that because I had stared at those papers the way some people stare at wedding photos, proof that I had survived something. The month after we moved in, Ellie and I painted her ceiling. She was 3 then, small enough to sit in the middle of the room with Biscuit in her lap and serious enough to tell me where every star belonged. We bought glow paint from a craft store and used tiny brushes. I painted the higher parts while she dabbed little crooked dots near the window. When we turned off the light that night, the ceiling came alive in green and blue specks. Ellie whispered, "My sky room." And I knew I would remember that sentence for the rest of my life. That was why the gray primer hurt so much. It had not covered drywall. It had covered the first place my daughter believed was fully hers. When my father had open heart surgery in August of 2021, my mother asked if she and Dad could stay with us just until he was stable. Those were her exact words, just until. Briar came too, because she said Mom would need help getting Dad to appointments and keeping track of medication. I did not ask for rent. I did not ask for a lease. My father had a scar down his chest. My mother looked frightened for the first time in my life, and my sister said she only needed a few weeks. A few weeks became Thanksgiving, then Christmas, then one more follow-up appointment, then Winters was too hard for Dad to move, then Briar was between plans. Then my mother started calling the guest room her room. The takeover did not happen all at once. That was the part I used to excuse. If someone had walked in on the first day and announced that my house would become theirs, I might have fought. But my mother did not take over like that. She rearranged one shelf in the pantry because it made more sense. She moved Ellie's cereal higher because children did not need constant access to sugar. She changed the towels in the hall bathroom. She decided which chair my father should have at dinner. She put a calendar on my refrigerator and wrote family dinner in red marker across every Sunday. Then family became the word that ended every conversation. Family rules, family schedule, family sacrifice, family decisions. Once I heard her tell Mrs. Okafor from next door that we had moved into a smaller place after Harlan's surgery. As if she had signed the papers. As if I had not worked nights with swollen feet and a sleeping child in daycare so I could buy those walls. I told myself it did not matter. I was tired. I was grateful Dad was alive. I was too busy trying to keep Ellie fed, insured, educated, packed, and safe to argue about pantry shelves. That was how a house stops feeling like yours. Not with a stolen deed. With small permissions you do not remember giving, Briar found her own way to take space. She called it healing. By 2025, she had built Briar Balance into a small online brand with about 1,180 followers. She filmed videos about home resets, healing corners, intentional living, and turning clutter into calm. She owned 3 linen backdrops, a ring light, a tripod, and enough beige storage baskets to organize a hotel lobby. She had a small connection with Maya Whitcomb, who made handmade candles, and Kelsey Rourke, a mom influencer who posted soft filter videos about gentle parenting. Briar did not have rent money, but she had a brand mood board. She did not contribute to the mortgage, but she talked about needing real creative space. For months, I caught her standing in Ellie's doorway around 3 in the afternoon, watching the light fall across the floor. She would say things like, "This room gets the best daylight," or, "It is a shame this space sits empty all day." Every time I answered the same way, "That is Ellie's bedroom." The Monday before they moved her things, Briar said it at dinner in front of everyone. She called it unused daylight space. Ellie was coloring at the table, swinging her feet, not fully understanding, but watching every adult face. I put my fork down. "That is my daughter's bedroom." My mother reached for her water glass and smiled, the way she smiled at churchwomen she did not like. "Nobody is deciding anything tonight. We are just talking as a family." My father looked at his plate. That silence had weight. It always did. The morning after I brought Ellie home from Kohl's, I went to Cedar Ridge Elementary with the kind of calm that comes from having no room left for panic. Principal Helen Markham met me in her office with a folder already open. She was professional, apologetic, and careful. She explained that Cole was still listed as an emergency pickup from after our separation in 2020. Vera had told the office I was in an emergency shift and could not answer my phone. She said I had asked Cole to take Ellie for 2 nights, and because my mother had picked Ellie up before when I worked late, no one questioned it fast enough. I did not yell at Principal Markham. The school had followed an old form and a familiar grandmother. That was the whole problem. My life had too many old permissions in it. I updated everything before I left. Vera's name came off regular pickup. Cole could only pick Ellie up with same-day written confirmation from me. Any family request had to be verified directly. I signed each line like I was closing a door. Miss Tessa Lang, Ellie's second-grade teacher, stopped me in the hallway before I could leave. She held a sheet of paper against her chest. "I thought you should see this." It was a drawing. A small room with a gray ceiling and a little bed outside the door. Above the bed, Ellie had drawn stars with black X marks over them. At the bottom, in uneven second-grade handwriting, she had written, "My room got voted away." I folded the paper slowly because if I looked at it too long, I was afraid I would break in the school hallway. That afternoon, Briar posted an Instagram story, turning unused space into peace. Big reveal Saturday. The photo showed her ring light, the cream backdrop, and in the upper corner, one strip of Ellie's surviving stars. Kelsey Rourke messaged her, then later one of those screenshots found its way to me. "Is that a child's room?" Briar had answered, "Family approved, repurposing family approved." I saved the story. I saved the message. I saved the photo of Ellie's drawing. That night, my mother placed a refinance brochure on the dinner table like she was setting down a casserole dish. She said that since we had all lived together for almost 4 years, it was time for the house to reflect the family. Briar nodded and said the studio would look more professional if the house legally felt shared. My father said nothing, but he looked at the brochure longer than he should have. I looked from that glossy paper to the hallway that led to Ellie's room. For the first time, I understood that the room had only been the test. If I stayed quiet while they took my daughter's sky, the next thing they wanted would not be paint or furniture. It would be my signature. Chapter 3. The vote was planned. The next morning, I went back to Kettering Valley Medical Center, with Ellie's drawing folded inside my locker and my daughter's questions sitting heavier in my chest than any shift badge I had ever worn. The emergency department did not care that my home was falling apart. It never did. Monitors still beeped, phones still rang, stretchers still rolled through automatic doors, and people still came in on the worst days of their lives expecting us to know what to do. I had always been good in that kind of chaos. Calm hands, clear voice, no wasted motion. Around noon, a little boy came in after falling from a playground ladder. He was 6, maybe 7, close enough to Ellie's age that I felt it in my ribs. His mother was shaking so hard she could barely answer questions. The boy kept asking if he was in trouble. I crouched beside him and kept my voice low. You are not in trouble. Your mom is right here, and we are going to take care of you. His mother looked at me like those words were holding her upright. That was when I understood something I should have understood the night before. Calm was not the same as surrender. Calm was what you gave a child when the adults around them had lost their minds. Renata Bell saw it on my face before I said anything. She was 62, a charge nurse with a gray braid down her back, and the kind of eyes that had watched hundreds of people lie to themselves. She caught me in the supply room while I was restocking gauze. You have been moving like a ghost all morning. Maris, I am fine. No, you are functional. That is different. I almost laughed, but it came out wrong. So I told her the short version. My mother had sent Ellie away. My sister had taken her room. My father had watched. They called it a vote. Renata did not gasp. She did not touch my arm or tell me family was complicated. She only leaned against the shelf and looked at me for a long second. Being calm does not mean letting people walk over you. It means knowing exactly where to put the line. Then she pulled out her phone and wrote a name on the back of a medication label. Patricia Vance, Property and Family Law. She is not cheap, but she is worth every dollar. I folded the label and tucked it behind my badge. When I got home that evening, my mother had made casserole. That was how Vera Lauren apologized without apologizing. She cooked something heavy, put it in the center of the table, and acted as if butter and breadcrumbs could cover what she had done. Ellie stayed close to me all night. She carried Biscuit from room to room, one hand wrapped around his ear. Briar had her ring light part spread across the dining room table beside a stack of beige fabric samples. My mother smiled as if we were all behaving now. I made enough for everyone. I am not hungry. Maris, do not punish the child with tension. Ellie looked up at me, and I swallowed what I wanted to say. Briar did not even look embarrassed. She was scrolling on her tablet, probably checking comments on the story she had posted about turning unused space into peace. The room is going to look beautiful by Saturday, she said. Once it is finished, I think everyone will see why this makes sense. That room does not need to make sense to everyone. It belongs to Ellie. My mother set a serving spoon down a little too hard. It belongs inside a family home. My father looked at his plate. Again, nothing. After dinner, Vera took Ellie to the bathroom to brush her teeth, and Briar stepped outside to take a call. Her tablet stayed on the kitchen counter, screen awake, a soft blue glow in the dim light. I was not looking for it. That was what I told myself in the first second. Then I saw the name of the group chat at the top, Juniper House. My mother's photo was there. Briar's, my father's, Aunt Carol's from Indiana. Not mine. The owner of Juniper Hollow Lane was not in the Juniper House chat. My pulse slowed in a way that frightened me. I picked up the tablet and began taking pictures with my phone. The first message I saw was from Briar. Which day is her double? My mother had answered. Wednesday. She will not be home until after 9. Briar again. If Ellie is gone first, it will be easier. My mother. We frame it as a family vote. Maris never fights all of us. Aunt Carol. She should be grateful she has help. Then my father. Do not do it while she is home. I stared at that one longer than the others. He had known. Maybe he had not planned it. Maybe he had not packed a box or lifted the bed. But he had known enough to warn them not to do it in front of me. That was not innocence. That was cowardice wearing slippers. I kept scrolling. Briar had written, the kid will not care in a week once the room looks different. My mother had answered, once the studio is set, Maris will not undo it. She never does. There it was. Not family. Not concern. Not help. A calculation. I took photo after photo. My hands did not shake now. My anger had gone cold enough to work with, then I saw the email screenshot. It was from Ellis Home Lending from someone named Dana Ellis. The line in the preview made the kitchen tilt slightly under my feet. Act. Title update required before refinance review if additional household members will be included. Below that was a picture of papers spread across my mother's bed, insurance update form, refinance brochure, household coverage form, and beneath them, Act, half hidden under a yellow sticky note, a quitclaim deed. The sticky note was in my mother's handwriting. Have Maris sign after shift. Say fire coverage needs all adults listed. For a moment, all the sounds in the house pulled away from me. Act. The dishwasher hummed. Ellie laughed faintly from the hallway because Vera had probably made a face in the mirror. Briar's voice drifted in from outside, sweet and professional the way she sounded online. Act. And I stood in my own kitchen, looking at proof that my mother had planned to put papers in front of me, after a hospital shift and lie about what they meant. The room had been the test. If I did not fight for Ellie's ceiling, Act. I would not fight for the title. I was still holding the tablet when my mother walked back into the kitchen. Her eyes went to my hands. What are you doing with Briar's tablet? I set it down gently, screen facing the counter. My phone was almost dead. I was checking the time. She looked at me too long. You have been very strange since last night. I met her eyes. No, I have been very clear since last night. Before she could answer, my phone rang. Aunt Carol. I let it ring twice. Then stepped onto the back porch and answered. Maris, your mother is heartbroken. Good evening to you too, Aunt Carol. Do not get smart with me. She told me you are threatening to throw your father out after everything he has been through. That man had open heart surgery. Your mother says you will not even let her see Ellie without making it into some punishment. I looked through the kitchen window. Vera stood inside, still watching me. Did she tell you whose name is on the deed? Aunt Carol went quiet. That is not the point. It is becoming the point. You sound cold. No, I sound tired of being rewritten. I ended the call before she could turn my own voice into evidence against me. When I came back inside, Mrs. Nadine Okafor was at the front door with the glass baking dish my mother had lent her weeks earlier. She was 58, always neat, always kind, and never fooled by polite people who smiled too hard. My mother went to take the dish, but Mrs. Okafor looked past her at me. Maris, honey, are you all right? My mother laughed softly. She is just overworked. Mrs. Okafor did not laugh back. I saw Ellie on the porch yesterday. She was holding that little rabbit. Her eyes were all swollen. The room went still. Then Mrs. Okafor added gently, that child did not look like she was fine. My mother's mouth tightened. Children get emotional when adults make changes. Mrs. Okafor handed me the dish instead of her. I am next door if you need anything. After she left, Vera turned to me with that church office smile sharpened at the edges. You are making people worry. No, Mom. You are telling people I am unstable. And some of them are starting to notice the child instead. She did not answer. She did not have to. Her silence told me I had hit the right place. That night, after Ellie was in my bed with Biscuit tucked between us, she looked up at me in the dark. If Grandma says I am family, why did I not get a vote? I brushed her hair back from her forehead. Because grown-ups were wrong. Can they be wrong and still win? I looked toward the hallway, toward the room with the gray ceiling and the ring light where her bed used to be. Not forever. After she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and made a folder on my phone. Juniper evidence. I added the photos of her room, the screenshots from Juniper House, Briar's story, the Ellis Home Lending email, the quitclaim deed, the sticky note, Cole's text, Ellie's drawing, my notes from Mrs. Okafor. Then I opened the message from Renata and looked at the number she had given me, Patricia Vance. In the morning, I was done asking my family to understand me. I was going to let the paperwork speak. Chapter 4, The Lawyer and the Receipts. Patricia Vance's office sat 3 blocks from the Montgomery County Recorder's office, on the second floor of a brick building downtown that smelled faintly of old carpet, printer toner, and coffee that had been sitting too long on a burner. I got there at 9:15 with my scrub still in the back seat, my hair pulled into a knot and a manila envelope pressed so tightly under my arm that the corner left a mark on my wrist. I had not slept much. Ellie had turned in my bed all night, one hand buried in Biscuit's fur, and every time she moved, I woke up thinking someone had opened her door again. Patricia Vance was 54, with short dark hair, pearl earrings, and a face that did not waste sympathy before it understood facts. She did not ask me if I was sure I wanted to do this. She did not tell me family was complicated. She pointed to the chair across from her desk. "Show me what you brought." So I did, the deed, the mortgage statement, the photo of Ellie's gray ceiling, Cole's text confirming my mother had lied, screenshots from the Juniper House group chat, Breyer's story about turning unused space into peace, the email from Ellis Home Lending, the photo of the quitclaim deed, the sticky note in my mother's handwriting, Ellie's drawing from school, the updated pickup information from Cedar Ridge Elementary. Patricia read everything slowly. She did not gasp when she saw the words family vote. She did not raise her eyebrows at the sticky note. The only time her face changed was when she looked at Ellie's drawing. "My room got voted away," she read quietly. I looked down at my hands. "She is 7. Patricia set the paper on top of the folder and leaned back. A family vote is not a legal instrument. I did not know how badly I needed to hear that until my lungs opened around the words. She tapped the deed. "The house is yours. Vera Lorne, Harlan Lorne, and Breyer Lorne are not on title. They are not on the mortgage. They do not become owners because they have lived there, eaten there, or called it a family home. I want them out, I understand. But you are not going to throw their belongings onto the lawn. You are not going to change the locks while they are still living there. They have been in that home almost 4 years, and even without rent or a written lease, we do this clean." "Clean," I repeated. "Clean keeps them from turning you into the villain." That landed harder than I expected, because that was exactly what my mother had been building. The exhausted nurse, the unstable daughter, the cold mother who would throw a heart patient out of the house. Patricia slid a legal pad toward herself. "We start with notices to vacate, 30 days. If they do not leave by the deadline, I file eviction in Montgomery County. We also send a letter telling them not to alter Ellie's room or property further, not to touch your deed, mortgage, insurance, or refinance documents, and not to present you with anything related to title without counsel." "What about the school?" "Already fix it today if you have not, and keep Cole's statement. What your mother did may not be a clean kidnapping case, because Cole is the biological father and was on the emergency pickup list. But she used false information to interfere with your parenting arrangement. That matters." I nodded. "And the quitclaim deed?" Patricia's eyes cooled. "If she tries again, especially by hiding it in insurance papers, we discuss civil fraud. For now, preserve everything. Do not warn her about how much you have." By noon, I was back at Cedar Ridge Elementary. Principal Helen Markham met me with Miss Tessa Lang beside her. Miss Lang gave me a small, sad smile that almost broke me, because teachers always know more than children think they do. Principal Markham placed a new form on the desk. "We have updated the file. Your mother is removed from regular pickup authorization. Mr. Mercer can only pick Ellie up with same-day written confirmation from you. No verbal changes from extended family." I signed each line carefully. It should have felt like paperwork. It did not. It felt like closing a gate my mother had walked through while I was saving strangers in an emergency room. Lang touched the edge of Ellie's drawing on the desk. "She was quiet today. She asked if rooms can belong to kids." I swallowed. "What did you tell her?" "I told her safe grown-ups protect children's spaces." I had to look away for a second. Cole met me in the parking lot 10 minutes later. He stood beside his work van in a faded company jacket, turning his baseball cap in his hands. "I wrote it down like you asked." He handed me a folded page. His handwriting was uneven, but the words were clear. Vera told him I had asked for help. I had not called him. Ellie cried the whole drive. He would confirm it if needed. "I am sorry, Maris. I know, I should have called you before I picked her up." "Yes, you should have." He nodded, taking it because for once there was nothing useful to defend. "I am not trying to be the hero here." "Good. I do not need a hero. I need the truth. You have it." That afternoon, Patricia emailed the final packet for me to review. 3 notices to vacate, 1 each for Vera, Harlan, and Breyer. A letter about Ellie's room. A letter about the house documents. A warning that any communication about refinance, title, insurance changes, or quitclaim paperwork had to go through her office. At 5:30, I printed copies at the hospital business center before my short shift. I watched the pages slide out warm and white, each one more real than anything my mother had said at that dinner table. On Thursday, April 17th, James Reddick served them. I was not in the room when he knocked, but I was close enough to hear my mother's voice rise in the hallway. "What is this?" "Legal notice, Mom." Vera took the envelope like it was dirty. She glanced at my name on the top and laughed once. Probably some hospital billing nonsense. Then she dropped it into the junk basket by the door. Breyer accepted hers with one hand while holding a strip of backdrop fabric in the other. "Seriously, Maris?" I did not answer. My father took his envelope last. He did not open it in front of them. Not then. Later that evening, I saw him at the kitchen table alone, the paper unfolded under his hand. His face had gone gray in a way that had nothing to do with his heart surgery. He read the date, May 17th, 2025. He read Patricia's name. He read the line about eviction if they did not leave. For the first time since this began, my father looked like he understood that this was not me making noise. This was a door closing, but he still did not call my mother in from the living room. He folded the notice, slid it back into the envelope, and sat there with both hands flat on the table. On Friday, Vera behaved as if nothing had changed. She dusted the living room. Breyer steamed the cream backdrop. A stack of Maya Whitcomb's candle samples sat on the counter. Breyer's phone buzzed all afternoon with messages about Saturday's reveal. "You will not embarrass your own sister in front of people," my mother said while arranging flowers in a pitcher. I was washing Ellie's lunchbox at the sink. "Do you mean like she embarrassed my daughter by turning her room into a set?" Vera's lips thinned. "You have become very hard." "No, I have become very specific." She did not know what to do with that, so she left the room. That night, after Ellie fell asleep in my bed with Biscuit tucked under her chin, I walked into her room with a small jar of glow paint. The air still smelled faintly of primer. The ring light stood in the corner like an accusation. I climbed onto a step stool and painted one tiny star near the edge of the gray. My father appeared in the doorway. For a while, neither of us spoke. "Your mother was not always like this," he said finally. I kept my brush steady. "That does not help, Ellie. When we lost the old house in 2010, something changed in her. She decided she was never going to feel like nobody again." I looked down at him. "So she decided to become somebody in my house." He flinched. "Do not make tomorrow uglier than it has to be." I climbed down from the stool, closed the paint jar, and wiped my fingers on a paper towel. "I did not make it ugly, I just stopped hiding it." He looked at the little star on the damaged ceiling and then at the ring light in the corner. For a second I thought he might finally say he was sorry. He did not. Late that night, Breyer posted again. "Breyer Balance Studio Reveal. Saturday, 10 a.m. A new chapter of peace begins." I stood in the dark kitchen and read it twice. Then I placed the deed, the mortgage statement, the notices, Cole's statement, the school pickup update, the screenshots, the quitclaim photo, the sticky note, Ellie's drawing, and the picture of the gray ceiling into one clean manila folder. Ellie was asleep down the hall. Biscuit was under her arm. The little star I had painted was drying in a room that still did not feel like hers yet. Vera and Breyer thought they had invited people to a launch. They had really invited them to hear the truth. Chapter 5: The Deed on the Table. By 10 o'clock Saturday morning, my house sounded like a place pretending to be happy. Breyer had opened the curtains in Ellie's room all the way, as if sunlight could make theft look clean. The ring light was on. The cream backdrop hung against the wall, slightly crooked, hiding part of the gray primer but not all of it. Near the window, a few of Ellie's old stars still showed through, small and stubborn above a table, where Maya Whitcomb had arranged handmade candles in neat little rows. Devon Price stood near the doorway with his camera strap around his neck. Kelsey Rourke arrived in a soft blue cardigan, smiling the way people smile when they think they have been invited into something gentle. Mrs. Nadine Okafor came in last with a covered plate and eyes that went straight to Ellie. My mother moved through the living room like the hostess of a house she owned. She said, "We are so grateful you could come support Breyer." She said this home has always been about family. She said today is about new beginnings. Breyer called the room the peace room. Ellie stood beside me in the hallway with Biscuit pressed against her chest. She did not step into the room. She just looked at the place where her bed used to be, then at the ring light, then at the gray ceiling. I rested one hand on her shoulder. Vera lifted a glass of iced tea and tapped it gently with a spoon. Everyone turned toward her. She spoke in that warm public voice she had used for church luncheons and sympathy cards. She said, "Act. Families grow by learning to share. Breyer has worked so hard on her vision, and this space was not being used in the best way. Ellie is still little. She does not need the largest room all day long. Act. And Maris has been under so much pressure at the hospital. Sometimes family has to step in when one person is too tired to see the bigger picture." I let her finish, then I stepped forward before everyone celebrates. "Can you explain what was voted on?" Act. My mother's smile twitched. "Maris, this is not the time. Tell them what you told me Wednesday night." Breyer's hand tightened around her phone. My father was standing near the bookcase, pale and silent. Vera looked around the room, act, and I saw the exact moment pride made her choose the wrong answer. She said, "We had a family vote. We agreed that Ellie's room would serve the household better as Breyer's studio." Maris disagreed, but she was outvoted. The silence after that was small, but it was real. I opened the manila folder. The first page I placed on the table was the deed. This house was purchased in June of 2021. It is recorded in Montgomery County. There is one name on the deed. Maris Wexler. I looked at my mother. Not Vera Lorne. Not Harlan Lorne. Not Breyer Lorne. Devon lowered his camera. Maya looked at Breyer, then at the candles on the table. Kelsey's eyes moved from the deed to Ellie. I placed the mortgage statement beside it. The mortgage is also in my name. No one here pays rent. No one here signed a lease. No one here contributes to the mortgage. A family vote is not a deed. My mother's face hardened. You are humiliating your family. No, Mom. I am correcting the record. I placed 3 notices on the table. You, Dad, and Breyer were served notice to vacate on April 17th. You have until May 17th to leave. If you do not, Patricia Vance will file eviction in Montgomery County on May 19th. My mother opened her mouth, but I kept going. I am not throwing your belongings outside. I am not changing locks while you are still legally there. I am doing this clean because I will not give you away to make me the villain, Breyer whispered. This is insane. I turned to her. No. Insane was moving a 7-year-old out of her bedroom while her mother was on a hospital shift and calling it peace. Then I placed the school documents on the table. Cole signed a statement. He confirmed that Mom told him I asked him to pick Ellie up. I did not. Cedar Ridge Elementary has already updated Ellie's pickup authorization. No one in this room gets to decide where my child sleeps, where she goes, or who picks her up. Ellie leaned closer against me. My voice stayed steady. No one votes on my child. I took out the screenshots from Juniper House. I did not read every message. I did not need to. I read the ones that mattered. Breyer asking which day I worked a double. My mother answering that Wednesday I would not be home until after 9. Breyer saying if Ellie was gone first, it would be easier. My mother saying I never fight all of them. Breyer saying the kid would not care in a week once the room looked different. Kelsey's face changed. She looked at Breyer and asked, "You planned this around a 7-year-old being gone?" Breyer tried to laugh. "It was not like that." Maya began putting her candles back into the box. Then I placed the last photo on the table. The quitclaim deed. The insurance forms, the refinance brochure, the sticky note in my mother's handwriting. Have Maris sign after shift. Say fire coverage needs all adults listed. The room went completely still. My mother stepped toward the table. That is private family business. You invited people into my daughter's room to celebrate what you did. You made it public. Her composure broke then. She said I was cruel. She said I was an ungrateful daughter. She said I was throwing out a man with a heart condition over paperwork. She said family meant more than ink. I looked at my father. For once, he did not look down. He said, "Vera, stop. Her name is on the deed." It was not an apology. It did not erase anything, but it was the first honest thing he had said all week. Mrs. Okafor stepped closer to Ellie. She said that child was not fine. I saw her outside holding that rabbit, crying like she did not know where she belonged. Breyer tried to save the room. She said the launch could still continue, that everyone was emotional, that healing spaces came from hard conversations. Maya picked up the last candle. She said, "I do not want my products in a room taken from a child." Kelsey put her phone in her purse. She said, "I built my page around mothers trusting me. I cannot stand in this room and pretend this is peace." Devon switched off the ring light. The sudden dimness felt like a verdict. One by one, they left. No photos. No video reveal. No partnership, no soft filter studio launch. Briar Balance collapsed in the exact room it had tried to steal. After that Saturday, my mother stopped speaking to me except when she had to act. Briar moved out within a week to stay with someone she knew in Cincinnati. Maya and Kelsey unfollowed her. Devin never sent the photos. Briar posted one video about setting boundaries with toxic relatives, act, then deleted it after someone asked why her new studio looked like a child's bedroom. My parents stayed almost until the deadline. Patricia had the eviction filing ready, but on May 16th, a cousin of my mother's arrived with a pickup truck. Act. My father carried boxes slowly. My mother walked through the house like a queen, leaving a country that had betrayed her. Before he left, my father stood on the porch. He said, "You did what I should have done. I did not forgive him." Not then, I only said, "Act. Take care of yourself, Dad." My mother did not apologize. She said, "You destroyed this family." I said, "No. I stopped letting you use that word to take things." After they were gone, Patricia confirmed I could change the locks. I did it that afternoon. Act. The sound of the new deadbolt sliding into place was quieter than I expected. The first weekend the house was truly ours again. Ellie and I bought new glow paint. We did not try to make her ceiling exactly the same. Act. Some gray still showed through in places. Some old stars were gone for good. But we turned the damaged part into a new sky. Ellie painted one star for Biscuit, one for me. Near the window, she painted the brightest one and called it Homestar. She asked, "Act, can people vote me out if I have a Homestar?" I sat beside her on the floor, paint on my fingers, my back against the wall I had paid for. "No, baby, nobody gets to vote you out of home." That night, act. Ellie slept in her own bed again with Biscuit beside her pillow and a new sky above her. I stood in the doorway and listened to the house breathe. For the first time in almost 4 years, the revenge was not my mother crying. Act. It was not Briar losing her studio. It was not even the deed on the table. The revenge was my daughter no longer asking who had the right to decide where she belonged. Act. If someone in your family tried to vote away your child's room in a house you paid for, would you have stayed calm, or would you have called the police that night? Tell me what you would have done. And if this story made you think about boundaries, act. Stay with this channel for more quiet revenge stories where the truth finally gets the last word.